Hi guys, Vicki here, and today we're going to review for your week 2 geometry quiz. So a few things we want to go over. First thing, we have the coordinate plane, and in the coordinate plane there are 4 quadrants. So you see quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. It goes counterclockwise, and each quadrant has a specific set of rules. Those rules help us decide how we're going to name points in that quadrant and how we're also going to graph points in each quadrant. So in quadrant 1, the values are positive, positive. We always start with the x value first and the y value second. The x value tells us how much we go over, and the y value how far we go up. So if you're in quadrant 1, you have a positive x and a positive y. If you are in quadrant 2, you're going to have a negative x because we go to the left, and a positive y because we went up. Quadrant 3 is negative, negative because you start at the origin here, and you're going to go left, which is a negative x, and down, which is a negative y. And then finally, quadrant 4 is positive, negative because you start at the origin, and the x value is positive, and the y value is negative. Okay, so 2 examples of using the coordinate plane. If somebody asked you what are the coordinates of point A, you would look on this and you would start at the origin and you would count how many we went over to the right or left. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right, which is a positive 4. And we go 1, 2, 3, 4 up, which is also a positive 4. So the coordinate of point A is 4, 4. And now if they asked you the coordinate of point B, we'd start at the origin again, but this time we're going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And since we went to the left, it would be negative 9. And then how many we went up or down? 1, 2. And since we went down, it would be negative 2. Put a comma in between. And we have negative 9, negative 2 for the coordinates of point B. Next, we're going to talk about lines and line segments and whether they are parallel, skew, or intersecting. So I've got 2 rulers here representing our 2 lines. And if the 2 lines are side by side and they went on forever and ever, notice they went on forever and ever, but they would never touch, and they're also in the same plane, we call that parallel. So these 2 rulers represent parallel lines. These would be parallel lines because they're in the same plane, they go in the same direction, but they're never going to touch. Now if we had intersecting lines, those are also lines in the same plane, but they would intersect, they would touch. Think about an intersection on a road where 2 roads crisscross each other. That's an intersection because they cross or they touch in the middle. And finally, we have skew, and skew are 2 lines that don't intersect and they don't touch, but they're not in the same plane. So this is skew, this is parallel. Oh, I'm sorry. This is intersecting. Made a mistake. This is intersecting. This is parallel. Okay, parallel. This would be skew. So this one goes in this direction, and this line goes in this direction. So they're not in the same plane. They're not intersecting, but they're also not parallel because they don't go in the same direction. Next, we're going to talk about the differences between a ray, a segment, and a line. This first one is a ray because it has one endpoint and the other direction goes on forever. That's the notation of a ray, and that is red. We read that as ray AB. The second one is a segment. It has 2 endpoints, a definite start and a definite stopping point. And this one is a segment, and it is read as line segment AB, and that is the notation. See the little line above it? But it doesn't have arrows on it because it doesn't go on forever and ever. And the third example is a line. A line goes on forever and ever in each direction. That's why we have these arrows, because it doesn't have a start and a stop. And that's the notation for that. And we read that as line AB. In other words, it goes through point A, it goes through point B, but it doesn't stop at A and B. It goes on forever and ever in each direction. So those are the different types: ray, line segment, line. So guys, next we're going to talk about angles and the different types of angles. This angle up here is a small angle and it's less than 90 degrees, so we call that an acute angle. Sometimes people say acute little angle, acute, acute, and so it's less than 90 degrees. This one right here is called a right angle. A right angle means it meets at exactly 90 degrees, so that makes it perpendicular. We know that like the way a wall meets the floor is 90 degrees, so that's a right angle. That little box there is the notation to mean it's a right angle. So whenever you see the box, you know it's exactly 90 degrees. And this one down here is called obtuse. Obtuse means it is larger than 90 degrees. So this is an obtuse angle, a right angle, an acute angle. In addition, there are different ways to name an angle. So notice this angle has 3 letters. There's a letter on each side of the angle as well as a letter on the vertex. The vertex is the point. You can name this as angle XYZ. You could also name it as angle ZYX. As long as the Y, the vertex, is in the middle, that's 2 different ways to name that angle. You can also name an angle by 1 letter as long as that letter only refers to that angle. So this could be angle G. We know there's not more than 1 angle in this picture, so I said G, I meant Q. We know there's not more than 1 angle in this picture, so if I said angle Q, it's obvious that I mean this angle. If you have several different angles side by side and you can't tell that Q means that main angle, then you can't just use the letter Q and you have to use the 3-letter naming system. Also, use less often. Sometimes there's just a number inside of the angle. Obviously, you can look at that and tell that that's not 1 degree, that it's obtuse, so it's going to be greater than 90 degrees. But sometimes they use a number and you could just call that angle 1. So 3 different ways to name angles, as well as acute angle, right angle, and obtuse angle. 3 different types of angles. Next, we're going to talk about slope. So there's a couple different ways to figure out slope. One way to look at slope is when you're looking at slope between 2 points. So if you have this point on the coordinate plane and this point on the coordinate plane, and we want to figure out the slope between the 2 points, we have to remember that slope equals rise over run. Slope is also, we use the letter M to mean slope. And slope also is y minus y over x minus x. So if slope is y minus y over x minus x, we need to look at those 2 points and figure out what our y's are. Remember, every coordinate point is an x comma y. So that's an x, and that's a y, and that's an x, and that's a y. So our 2 y's are 3 and 9. I'm going to go ahead and use that 3 and that 9 and do 9 minus 3, because y minus y. It's easier to do 9 minus 3 than it is 3 minus 9. Doesn't matter which order you do it in, but whichever y goes first, since I use this 9 minus this 3, I did this y minus this y, I now have to do this x minus this x. Since 9 minus 3 is the y minus y, and then 4 minus 2 is the x minus x, I end up with 6 over 2. And 6 over 2, remember a fraction is just a division. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the slope of this line equals 3. The last part of this video continues on with slope when we talk about the different types of slope. When you have something that is directly side to side or horizontal, if the slope is directly side to side, we say that that slope equals 0. It has no slope. If we have a line that goes straight up and down, we say that that slope is undefined. And we'll explain some more about that later. But if it's straight up and down, it's undefined. If it's side to side, the slope is 0. If the line increases from left to right, we say the slope is positive. And if it decreases when it goes from left to right, we say the slope is negative. In addition, we can find the actual slope by doing rise over run. So let's start with the positive one. We need to find 2 points on there. So there's a point and there's a point. And if we're going to do rise over run, we notice this goes up 1 and over 1. So 1 over 1 equals a slope of 1. This one over here, we're going to do rise over run, and because in the English language we always read from left to right, we're going to do points from left to right. So we find a point here, and then we find another point, and we go from the left to the right. We notice the rise is -2 because we're actually going down. Since we're going down for the rise, we denote that with a negative, and then we're going over 1. So -2 over 1 means this slope is -2. So this has a slope of -2. This one has a slope of 1, this has a slope of 0, and this has an undefined slope. So pretty much everything we've reviewed right now is going to be on the quiz, and you're going to take the quiz today. So good luck, and you guys got this.